Hey everybody, welcome back to the Making It Music podcast. This week though, we're a little bit different. We're a bit of a visual recording as well, which hopefully we'll have out to you. I hope you guys are all keeping safe. This whole COVID 2019 has really thrown us all, knocked us for six, and is scaring quite a few people out there. Don't be worried. We're going to be in this maybe quote unquote lockdown maybe for a little while, and then we'll be back at it. But until then, we have stuff like Zoom and Skype and red teapots to keep us happy. Welcome, Fionn. Everybody, I'd like to introduce Fionn Ó hAlmhain. Hello, darling. How are you? Nice
Hello,
cup of tea to start yourself off.
Oh, absolutely. Nice cup of berry tea to get things going.
I saw actually something on Facebook today. It was like, finally the Barry versus Lions debate has been answered, because in the supermarkets, it's Barry's is all sold out and there's still boxes of Lions.
There you go. Well, I didn't actually say Barry. I said berry, but
Barry, ooh,
I
fancy
would
man.
be a Barry's man myself, really. I mean, it's Lidl value berry tea. Don't get carried away in it.
I go for the Tesco own brand myself, you know, the forest.
But Tesco's further away and I'm very lazy.
That being that. And I think there might be less queues in Lidl. I think they have a little bit more of a grounding on the whole situation. Tesco seems like queues every time.
Yeah, they're generally more efficient when it comes to the till, I think.
Yeah. Oh my God. This whole thing has turned all of us in our heads, I think, especially yourself and myself as musicians.
Yes.
How are you getting on? Like, what's the story with you? Many gigs have been cancelled, especially, actually, I never even introduced you guys to Fionn. Fionn is our first trad session musician on the show. Very happy to have you on, especially on the day like St. Patrick's Day. It's very fitting. Not only does Fionn play the uilleann pipes, you play the whistle, flute, you're also a traditional Irish singer. Fionn has gigged all over the world, bringing traditional music around the world, traditional Irish music. How has this affected you? How's the COVID-19 kind of been for you? You're a teacher like myself, but you're also a session player, and especially around St. Patrick's Day, like.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I think I'm in the same boat with a lot of trad musicians, in that Paddy's Day is kind of traditionally a big income day, and this year it's very much a low income day. I mean, even though I did teach a load of lessons over Zoom this morning,
on
so
Zoom.
There's a little bit there to keep you going. But basically, last Thursday afternoon, so Taoiseach made his speech in the morning. By 5 o'clock, I was 100% unemployed.
Yeah.
It's
scary.
It was pretty scary. And I'm actually, one of my day jobs is that I also sing opera.
Wow.
And
that's
so
pretty
that
cool.
was a pretty shocking thing. I was working with the chorus for Irish National Opera.
Carmen.
Carmen, that's the one.
No.
We literally had the Sitzprobe on Wednesday. The Sitzprobe is the big rehearsal with a musical rehearsal with the full orchestra. And so, yeah, Thursday morning I heard the news, and the rest of the day I was sitting there anxiously refreshing my emails.
Yeah.
We had a rehearsal call for 2:30. Let's put it that way. I was kind of going, okay, well, if I don't get an email, I'm getting a bus in 10 minutes. And yeah, the email came, sadly. But so that was annoying, because that was a really great project to work on. It was going so well.
I know a bit about Carmen because a person I work with, his boyfriend is in it. And but for those who don't know about Carmen is coming to Dublin. Please, well, hopefully, maybe it's going to be postponed for now, but tell us about this project you've been doing, because I didn't even know that you're involved in the opera scene.
Yeah, well, I'm in the chorus. Who's your friend's boyfriend? I might know them.
I don't know the boyfriend's name, unfortunately.
Very well. Yeah, so I was in the chorus. I've been with Irish National Opera Chorus quite a lot over the last year. The first show I did with them was Aida, which I did. They got students in to bolster the numbers of the full chorus, and I've kind of been doing stuff with their chorus ever since, which has been great. This particular project is maybe one of the best I've done, alongside Cenerentola, which we had just a couple of months ago.
And when was it meant to kick off?
It was meant to. It should be Tech Week this week. Should have been Tech Week. Should have been shows next week. but we'll do it again. We'll do it. It's on the books. It's postponed. They're waiting for the next possible date. Yeah, so
But
that
the
kind of went.
National Opera course, what is that? How did you get involved in that?
Well, I suppose I went to study the uilleann pipes at DIT because that's where I was sure that was what I was doing. That was that, and I joined the choir in DIT, and then things kind of escalated a little bit. I got introduced to one of the vocal teachers in DIT. Basically, one of his students at the time, Matthew Mannion, was singing in the choral society as well in college. And he was always kind of standing next to me in the bass section going, giving me bits of vocal hints. And then at some stage he said, you should come see my teacher. And and then things escalated and I went and did a bit of an opera course in Glyndebourne, and I've been doing opera singing alongside my degree for the whole duration of my degree, which is finished now. And I just kind of fell into things that way, and auditions and competitions and bits around.
That's really cool. That's excellent. Well, one thing I know we've kind of skipped past it. One thing I like to do on this podcast is a bit of this or that. And I really want to link back to you starting off in the uilleann pipes and stuff like that. But I will do a this or that because I planned specifically Irish this or that for you this week. So excellent. I don't know if you've listened to the podcast before, but what we like to do is I'll give you 6 artists or bands or whatever, 2 at a time, and you just pick the first one that comes to your head. Which one you prefer? First one that comes to your head.
Oh, fun. Okay, let's go.
Okay, fantastic. So first one up, the Chieftains versus the Saw Doctors.
Chieftains.
Yes.
No question.
Okay, next one, Luke Kelly or Mundy.
Luke Kelly. I mean, he's a legend. Mundy is great, but Luke Kelly is like...
I'm liking him. We're on the same page this moment. I'm a bit more like, Sock Doctors, Chieftains. Like, it's pretty even, but definitely Luke Kelly. And then last one, the Corrs versus U2. Look. I don't like any of those.
None of the above. Yeah. Sorry.
Not even the Corrs?
Not really, no. Not for me.
Okay, well...
I mean, they're objectively good if that's what you're into, but it's not what I'm into.
How about the Corrs or U2 or the Cranberries? Neither? None of them? Not even a third?
Probably the Cranberries. This is from I don't really listen to any of them very much, but I worked in a music shop. I worked in Clatter Records for about 2 years in the Westmoreland store, which closed, which is when I stopped working there. So I have sampled all 3 of them, and I'd say probably the Cranberries. But again,
pull that opinion into my chest.
Pull it into my beard, and it's going to disappear forever.
But that's pretty good, though. Well, at least I know just to never buy you a Corrs or a U2 CD. Or
there you go. Yeah,
I won't buy him being a CD, to be honest, in a while. But let's go back. Let's just circle way back to your beginnings. So Ireland is a very musical country. That is to be said. There's more, like, out of 5 people, probably 3 of them play 1 instrument. Maybe the 4th plays 3. Like, it's very unlikely.
Extent.
Yeah, it's very unlikely you'll walk into a room in Ireland and someone will be like, no, I don't play an instrument at all. I've never touched one. But there's so many different genres of music in Ireland, and especially, I know you're originally from Wicklow, but on the east side of Ireland, traditional music sometimes can be left to the side. And a lot of people will either lead towards like classical or rock and roll if they're guitar players and stuff. What made you go for traditional? And actually, what made you go for the uilleann pipes of all instruments? Was that your first one, or was there something else before that?
It wasn't. So it's a slightly linear story. Linear as in it starts with the whistle and it ends with the pipes. And I suppose the interesting thing is I moved to Wicklow with my parents and my brother at the time when I was about 4. Before that, we were actually both of us born in Berlin. My ma's German.
Wow.
So we moved to Bray then, and our parents were bringing us up. This is actually my dad's house where he grew up. This was his room at one stage. There's a little tiny bunk bed just above my head where he used to sleep. And his family are all fluent Irish speakers. So we were actually raised with German and Irish.
So I suppose English was like a third language almost.
Yeah. And I didn't really speak it well till I was about 10-ish.
Really?
Which was a funny one. So socially, that meant we were kind of maybe more inclined to particular circles than others.
Yeah, fair.
So we went to a Gaelic school because that was just the easiest option. And also having a bilingual education is generally good.
Yeah, very good.
But yeah, so I suppose the Gaelic school is where I first got whistle lessons. But we had music before that. We had music at home. My parents, there's always music on in the background. There still is. There's the CD player is like the centerpiece of the living room, never mind the TV or anything like that. That's kind of there. And there's a few Bluetooth speakers knocking around now as well. So there's always something on. And I think the main bands or artists and stuff that I listened to growing up would have been Keela. Keela were my favourite when I was a kid. Queen, the Chieftains, and Liam O'Flynn.
I really like how Queen managed to sneak itself in there.
Of course,
Queen had to sneak itself in there.
Who doesn't? But yeah, that's what was on in the car, like, and in the kitchen and stuff. And then my mom listened to loads of classical music as well. Actually, I think the first music I ever owned was a cassette tape of Leopold Mozart's musical Sleigh Ride.
Oh, that's really sweet.
He had a children's symphony that he wrote as well. Funnily enough, everything trad for the next 20 years. And
then you kind of slip back into opera.
yeah, among other things.
So you started off on the whistle?
Started off on the whistle. And then in school initially, and kind of at home on my own as well, we got a little book, Simply Tin Whistle, that I just used to entertain myself with. Mom was great for getting us to practice and showing us bits and bobs. Like, she's kind of generally musical.
Yeah.
And then, so we did whistle lesson in school. Then my brother, more so than myself, because I was in school out of 32 kids, probably the shittest at the tin whistle. What made me stick to it? So we moved on, and my brother started getting fiddle lessons in Coltis, because he's the artistic one, really. He went on to study law and French. That's entirely beside the point. He's the artistic one. So he was the musical one as well. So he was sent to fiddle lessons. And since we were a similar age, it was just easier to get rid of both kids at the same time for the evening. So I got stuck into whistle lessons with one Jerry O'Donnell. He's a fantastic teacher. So I got whistle lessons there and kind of got better. And all the cool kids, because Jerry's a fantastic flute teacher, all the cool kids were playing the flute. So I moved from this stick with holes in it to this stick with holes in it.
A bigger stick with holes in it.
A bigger stick with
holes in it. And it's harder to blow into.
Slightly. A little bit. Yeah. And then the other factor is that my family used to always go on holidays to a place called Ballavrack in Kirkazina in Kerry. Again, because it could speak to everyone there with no issues whatsoever. And there used to be a piper in Dingle called Con Durham. And when I was, I think, about 12 or 13, there was this one session, obviously in Trad, we have sessions all the time. So we meet and play music informally and have at the crack, which is fantastic. There was this one session which started at like 6, which my mother decided that's a child-friendly time. In you go. So I went in. She sat in the corner with her, don't know what she was drinking. She didn't drink and drive. She was drinking with tea or something. And I sat down with like a Club Lemon in with the musicians and started talking to this guy who spoke Irish back to me. And, he was interested because I was a child and I was interested. And
a child speaking Irish as well, who's not from the area, might be something big for them.
That too, yeah. Anyway, so he played the pipes, Con Durham. And then I had a lesson with him the next day. And now I have a load of sticks all tied up into a bag. And yeah, that sort of happened. And then the reason that I still play and my brother doesn't was that I practiced and he didn't.
Fair. That is normally the reason people become musicians, is because they practiced and other people didn't. But so after building up, going through from the whistle to the traditional flute and then to the uilleann pipes, so you would already kind of immerse yourself into traditional Irish scene, going to these sessions from a young age, and then you went into college. How did you find when, like, going from being already in the scene and then going into a college who are telling you about how to play in the scene, if you know what I mean?
Well, it was kind of a funny one, because for one thing, the college that I went to, it's now TU Dublin, it was DIT at the time. And the conservatory, most of the musicians in my year were classical musicians, right? There were, I think, 3 trads when we started, and out of those trads, I'm the only one that finished the course, but there was other trads came in and out of my year. It was kind of bit of a juggle, people taking years out and coming back in later and stuff like that. So it was a funny one. Part of the reason that I went to Dublin to study rather than, say, Limerick, which was the other place that I auditioned for actually, was also the general music scene around. So it wasn't, I think, going to music college, generally, for any type of music, going to music college and going in there and just doing all your college stuff, you end up living in a bit of a musical bubble.
Definitely.
So actually, for me, going to college in Dublin, where there's such a huge music scene, was one way to avoid getting stuck in that bubble, I suppose.
I definitely agree. Yeah, you kind of need that other side of playing, especially when you're.
You need to play in the real world as well as in college.
The minute you step into college as a musician, you're not just a student anymore. You're a musician and a student, and you need to start building your career from when you get into college. Start making your connections then, and start gigging then.
And I feel having the music scene in Dublin during my degree was hugely important. And I mean, I'd been going to sessions there as a teenager, really. I used to go busking loads in Dublin. So I had friends around who were all a couple of years older than me, but who were doing sessions and stuff, and I used to go into the Cobblestone and places like that, and O'Donoghue's I used to go to loads.
O'Donoghue's still open.
It is, yeah. I haven't been there now in years because it's a bit mad.
A bit crazy.
Little bit crazy. But I mean, when I was 14, 15, 16 and busking, so was I. So
it didn't
appropriate,
matter.
I suppose. Didn't matter. No.
You had your rock and roll days back in 14, 15, not then.
Oh, yeah, exactly,
My
Johnny Doran days, as I called him. Johnny Doran was a fantastic traveller piper, and he was basically, Johnny Doran and Leo Olsen were like my idols when I was 14, 15.
I will be them. I will travel the world with my pipes on my back.
Yeah, fast and furious and baiting away at the regulators and putting in lots of crazy ornamentation and stuff. And my style has changed a little bit since then, but I still enjoy listening to that sort of stuff. It's great. Where was I going with this? Yeah, so I was kind of in the Dublin music scene already, as well as having the other thing is the main place I kind of made friends musically was at festivals around when I was young. So at things like the Mehel Summer School or the Willie Clancy Summer Festival, which is
represent.
Wearing the t-shirt at the moment. There he is, there playing his pipes, striking a pose. They made a statue of him in Milltown Melbay. It's there now. It's great. Someone decided to put a fucking surgical mask on him there last week.
Waste of a surgical mask.
Oh yeah, we don't condone that sort of thing. But I mean, humorously, totally worth it. So I made loads of friends there who were all into music that I was into and into kind of doing stuff that I was into. So it's great. The issue was that they were kind of scattered all over the place. Some of my best friends were in Castlewellan in Down and in Corofin in Galway and in Clare and in Waterford, especially in Ring.
But so you were gigging with those like loads as a teenager, and then you were gigging all the way through college and stuff as well. But it's not just these session gigs you play at. There's like when people sometimes I think when people think of traditional music, like I have friends in the traditional music scene, so I know that there is a lot more opportunities out there for traditional musicians. But I feel like there's a little bit of a stigma sometimes. It's kind of like, oh, if you play a traditional instrument, you're just going to be playing in a pub at a session, and that's where you're going to be playing.
And
Or you might
that.
play some of the RT stuff, and that's it. But like yourself, we were talking about the Landmark gigs earlier. The Landmark would be quite a young pub, I would think, like on the corner of Camden Street. It's kind of
Yeah.
bringing like that trad session to a younger crowd. Also, you're playing the Kaleidoscope Festival with Leisha and co, and then you not only that, but you're over in,
it's one of my favorite gigs, that.
Shoot me if I say this wrong, Lorient, France.
Lorient, yeah.
Yes, the crowd goes wild. I never pronounce anything correctly.
Or if you want to say it in Breton, it's an Orient.
An Orient. Right?
Yeah.
Yay! Oh, fantastic! At the Inter-Celtic Festival.
I could be wrong. Yes.
So tell us about these other gigs you're doing. Like, so you're just saying there, the Kaleidoscope Festival gig was one of the best gigs you ever did.
Yeah, absolutely. This album, The Child Ballads. The Child Ballads is kind of a collection of songs that was made by one Mr. Child, who had a first name as well, and he lived in the year of Wikipedia. Hold on. Child ballads. Anyway, he collected a load of mainly ballads, but songs from mostly Scotland, Northern England, and parts of Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. He was born in 1860, but a lot of the songs are, there would have been songs that would have been considered old when he went to collect them. So a lot of them are quite a bit older. And yeah, from mixed origins. So what Leisha did was she kind of took a load of these songs, picked a load of her favorite musicians, which is just a really interesting range of a few trad players and a few jazz heads and a lot of early music players and one electric guitarist as well.
just to add a bit of spice to the mix,
Just to add a bit of something to the mix, yeah. And one of the early music heads also plays banjo, like 5-string banjo, and sings that sort of style too. So it's really interesting. So she brought us all together and kind of wrote arrangements on things or made situations to facilitate a nice arrangement happening, if that makes sense. So she kind of gave us the bones of what to do, and kind of it was a really fun experience because none of us had the whole picture of the thing except Leisha.
Okay.
Until the album came out. So it was kind of, she masterminded it, and she's on all of the tracks anyway, playing the recorder or singing on one track and doing bits and bobs. And then she just got us to do our thing, which was great. And it was really a really nice collaboration, actually.
What was it like being a traditional player playing with jazz heads?
So the improvisation bit part of the thing, which there was plenty of improvisation going on, was a little bit scary to begin with.
I could say so.
Because I'm used to playing tunes that I know and kind of playing them and going for it. Now, I do a lot of improvisation actually in the regular income gigs, shall we call them, around Temple Bar and that, which is a plug in, switch off kind of a situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had to improvise quite a bit. It was kind of grand because the melody was always there of the song, because they were the child ballads, their particular songs. And yeah, so it was really interesting. And I think I had a certain amount of advantage as well, because we have to do a lot of collaborations in college anyway. So for example, I played in the college's early music ensemble for the last 2 years of when I was there, maybe the last 3 years even, which was great, which is a thing that Leisha actually ran.
Oh, so you met her through that? Met
her through that, yeah. And actually some of the improvisation came from that sort of an angle as well, because there's a lot of improvisation in early music too.
Yeah.
And all these improvisations are slightly different, what we usually do in Irish music in terms of variations on phrases and stuff like this, and then what happens in jazz and what happens in early music. So it was interesting. It was one thing that college definitely did for me, was kind of broaden my view of music. At the point that we made the album, I was kind of used to being thrown into a group with a funny combination of musicians and making something with it.
But that Kaleidoscope gigs specifically, you're saying was one of like the best gigs you ever did.
Oh
Wow.
yeah, it was fantastic.
Why that
So
gig? Why that festival?
basically, what we did for that was Leisha was curating the series that time. And this was essentially the album launch. So the first half of the concert was all of us that were on the album doing our own thing.
Fantastic.
So for myself and Alton O'Brien, who plays the fiddle on the album, we did a trad set.
Yeah.
Then there was some early music and there was some jazz. And then in the second half, what we did is we literally ran the album from the start through to the end. And yeah, it was just really, really good. Yeah, it was great to see everyone doing their own thing, having collaborated with them, met most of them for the first time during this album process.
Yeah.
Now, some of them I knew from before, people like Oisin Walsh-Pilo, who was one of the singers on it. He's
fantastic.
Oh yeah, you've come across him. There you go.
Yeah.
He's that's
brilliant.
where I first met him. He was in 6th year in school when I was in 1st year. And then we went to the same college as well.
Yeah.
Ended up going to the same singing teacher for a while too. So
yeah, I met him only I think once, but I've heard him sing a few times. But he's just wow, just
oh yeah, he's a lovely guy as well. He's
really
great crack.
Mm.
So I knew him before, I knew Alton before, and I knew Leisha obviously, and the sound engineer we had, Ben Rawlins. He and Leisha kind of run this company called Jiggery Pokery Productions that have been doing really cool things. So this album, the two of them were really involved.
Say it again for me. Jiggery Pokery Productions.
That's the one.
Jiggery Pokery Productions.
Follow them on Instagram.
Follow, plug, like lads, we have nothing else to do over the next little while. Just follow everyone on Instagram. Keep up with what everyone's doing because
they're making some pretty fucking fantastic albums with a really wide range of musicians. So
excellent.
Definitely have a look. There's something in there for everyone, and yeah, the quality of what they make is just fantastic.
So the other festivals you played at, the Inter-Celtic Festival, tell us about that. What is the Inter-Celtic Festival? Because the first time I heard about it was when I was looking up your own stuff, and I was thinking, was that like in Wales or Scotland or something? Like, was that kind of to do with all Celtic music? And then I was like, he's in France? What? Like, France?
Oh, you've just angered a lot of Bretons.
Oh, fair. Yeah, actually.
So the Festival Inter-Celtic is a celebration of kind of all the Celtic nations, which I think officially there are 6, and then there's several
mini
kind of nations that would be kind of associated. For example, the 6 main ones anyway are Ireland, Scotland, and the Isle of Man, which is the Gaelic branch of the kind of Celtic language and culture, the Gaelic Celts. And then there's Brittany, Wales, and Cornwall would be the other 3. So that's the main 6, and they'd be the Brittonic branch. Cornwall, yeah.
Really?
They have a whole language and a whole music and everything.
This is madness.
And it's really funny. Breton, Welsh, and Cornish are very similar. Irish, Manx, and Gaelic, Scots Gaelic, are mutually intelligible when you're drunk. As I discovered at the Inter-Celtic during one particularly fun conversation. Yeah, it's really interesting. So it's those, and then there's 2 kind of, they're not considered Celtic nations by some, but are by others in Spain, Galicia and Asturias and Galicia. So that's just the northwest coast of Spain, really.
And it's just a festival every year to bring them all together.
Yeah, and it's
Celtic
mad.
Roots.
It's 10 days of just mental fun. There's all these national tents with gigs all day. There's workshops. There's loads of really crafty stalls, which were dangerous. Loads of nice food, loads of interesting... There's a video somewhere of me learning to pour Asturian cider, which you have to hold the bottle in this hand and hold it up there, and hold the glass in this hand and hold it down here to aerate the cider.
That's just how I pour normally, to be fair.
That much, and then you have to down it, because once it's aerated, it's good for about 20 seconds.
That just seems like a very nice cider, to be honest. Like, why would you buy something like that?
Absolutely feckin' fantastic. It was really nice, yeah.
Those 20 seconds were the best 20 seconds of my life.
It didn't take me 20 seconds. But then Brittany is also a big region for cider. It's very, very good.
Yeah.
So I was over there officially. Actually, I only had a day and a half of work to do because I was teaching a masterclass and I was adjudicating the McCrimmon bagpipe competition. The McCrimmon Cup is a really interesting thing. It's Highland pipes only, so Scottish Highland pipes, the type that when I say bagpipes, the picture that pops into your head, most of you, them.
Yeah.
That's what's in the competition. They have to play a Breton set, an Irish set, and a Scottish set. So
it doesn't matter where they're from, they have to do all three.
Doesn't matter where they're from, they have to do all three.
Cool.
And there's Australian representation. They have their own national tent at this thing because immigration is a thing that happens. Australia, there's Arcady in Canada had their own tent. So there's quite a wide range of performers, and the US as well. So there's pipers from all over were there, really.
That's fantastic.
So there were 3 panels and 2 adjudicators on each panel, and just so happens the Irish panel always has a Highland piper from Ireland and an Uilleann piper. So I was the Uilleann piper on the panel for 2 years running, which was great. But this competition, it started at 2 o'clock in the day, and there were quite a few pipers in it, and they all had to play 3 sets, and they all got 10 minutes of on-stage warm-up time for the pipes.
It's a long day.
Yeah, guess when we had the results?
The next day? 2 days later?
Oh, wait, midnight.
Jeez.
Midnight. We all
just kept on listening.
At the end of our rounds, ranked our competitors. We had to rank them like first to however many there were. So there was no first, second, third, feck the rest of you. It was the first year I was there was first to 17th. So you have to rank them all, and it gets difficult towards the middle. The top is usually quite clear, the bottom is usually quite clear, and the middle is really difficult. And then 6 results sheets all got fed into an averages machine, and that's how they. And then we had a whiskey reception and announced the winners.
Very nice.
It's a great way to do it, in my opinion.
So when does this festival normally take place? Is it a yearly thing?
It's in August every year.
So maybe, hopefully, it might be back
at the first 2 weeks. Hopefully. But actually, that was just a competition. That's why I was officially there, to do the competition and teach the masterclass.
Yeah.
The second year, I had great fun because I was co-teaching the masterclass with Paddy Keenan. Casual lads. So the poster literally said Fionn Ó, hAlmhain and Paddy Keenan. I didn't stop pissing myself laughing. It was hilarious. He was like one of my big heroes.
Because you're A. It's because of that A.
It's the A, yeah. Alphabetical order.
Yeah. For those, you can probably see it there. Fionn's name is spelled nothing like it's pronounced. Like most Irish names, there is an A at the start of Fionn's name, and that is actually the starting letter.
Exactly the way it pronounces.
Oh, no, if I tried to pronounce your name now, it would be Oh hAlmhain.
Yeah, but that's when you pronounce it with English phonetic rules, which is a mistake.
I don't abide by that culture. Don't mislinguistic me.
No, it makes perfect sense. The MH is there for vowel modification.
All about that life.
Anyway, but I had great crack for the festival because basically I had 2 days work and 10 days festival. It's a good place to be. So I was just going around playing tunes. I covered piping classes for someone for the first half of one of the festivals because there was something got delayed and whatnot. But it's great crack, and I had this like little pass. I could get into all the backstages and all the concerts.
That's fantastic.
So that's exactly what I did. I hung out with people, made a load of friends from the Isle of Man, played loads of tunes, and you'd always get kind of randomly asked to play on all these. Kind of just if you were hanging out in the Manx tent, they might ask you to come and do a set on the stage the next day or something like that.
So it's like a big session for the whole day. For the whole festival, it's just people learning about Celtic music, playing Celtic music with each other.
Yeah, loads of Celtic crafts going around as well. I mean, it wasn't just music. There was loads of language workshops and things like that, and loads of craft stalls, which were really cool. Loads of international food around, all of which was amazing, and various lovely ciders and things.
And do you think you'll be going back this year? If it goes, has it been cold yet? Or
we'll see. We'll find out. I mean, in my official, I wasn't there last year. I was there the previous 2 years. You're not allowed to adjudicate more than 2 years in a row to avoid
Brown paper
things that
envelopes.
happen. Yeah, which shouldn't happen. Just to mix things up a bit as well.
Yeah.
Which is good. So I haven't been there since my term as an adjudicator, but I do hope to go back, absolutely.
To be fair, just listening about this festival, it'd be nice to go over to a different place and see your culture being celebrated that isn't
Absolutely.
people
And
getting
actually,
really drunk at a parade.
If anyone does want to go over, they do often look for people to do security work, as they call it, which basically, if you're in the Irish delegation and you're doing security work, what it involves is sitting in the porch of the accommodation for one shift every other day and just checking people's ID on the way in, kind of thing. It's
Sounds
quite
like
handy. You get your accommodation, you get 3 meals a day, and you get a pass for the festival.
Wow.
So
how would someone figure that out? How would someone get in touch to sign up to
get
this?
in touch with the chef de sécurité for the Irish delegation, who is Fionn Ó is his name, and he's often looking for people.
Okay, so you can probably find him through the Inter-Celtic website, maybe?
I don't know. Have a Google.
But if that information is there, ladies and folks.
He's done work for Conran and Gaelge. Or if you message me on Facebook or Instagram or somewhere, I'll put you onto him. But they do tend to be looking for people.
Well, I definitely think this is a festival that needs to be talked about more, because I've never heard of it. I haven't heard about it. It's never been on... maybe it's been on the news. I've never seen it on the news. It should be, because we're celebrating our culture in a different country, and people aren't just getting drunk. They're doing crafts and playing music and learning about being Celtic and
just meeting people and having fun as well.
Yeah, exactly.
A bit, but and eating loads of crepes.
And crepes! I never get a crepe on Paddy Day.
Mussels are a huge thing in Lothian.
Fantastic.
At least twice when I'm over there. At least you have to get des moules frites.
The fruit.
Des moules et frites. Mules are mussels and chips.
Oh, you just get mussels and chips? That's amazing.
Mussels and chips, yeah, and they come out in this big...
What a way to wreck it. Yeah, just mussels and chips.
You just get a big pot of mussels, like. It comes out, it's a big pot and it's full of mussels. And it's great. And
so lads, there you go. We are not making any money at the moment because of the COVID-19. So here is a holiday that's going to pay you and be great crack.
They'll pay for you to be there. They won't.
Yeah, obviously not your flights and stuff, but like your...
No, flights are covered. Charter flight, if you're working for security. It's great fun. They just book a whole Aer Lingus flight, and it's the whole Irish delegation, which always involves at least one pipe band full of kids, which is fun. And, actually, my co-adjudicator one of the years, I have to tell you, he was hilarious. Andy was his name. Big guy from Belfast. He was hilarious. I met him the night before, or I met him on a night during the festival before we had to adjudicate, and he kind of recognized me, having been introduced to me, on the way over. I said, "Hey there, fun, yay, hey." This is backstage at 3:00 in the morning. See this adjudication thing. When you're adjudicating fun, there's 3 categories. 3 categories. I'm really sorry if I'm butchering this accent.
This is great.
This is what he sounded like at this hour of the evening. Category number 1. Good. That's category number 1. Category number 2, fun. Shite. That's category number 2. Category number 3 is not good. That's shite. Category number 3, as for special occasions only, gob shite. So that was, I'm not saying we had a system, but that's what he said to me when he was rather intoxicated.
That was the system of the evening. Just 1, 2, or 3 written beside each person who comes into the table.
Well, he may or may not have kind of given me a bit of side eye during the competition occasionally and gone, shade. There may have been one instance of him just kind of sitting back. He sat back in his chair. He wasn't even writing any more comments. He was just sitting back in his chair for most of this thing. He waited for the competitor to leave. And he just turned around to me and went,
Oh, we know where that one's going.
it wasn't category number 1 or 2 anyway.
Oh, well, so this has been like, you've been to Lorient. What's the furthest that your traditional music has taken you?
China. Yeah.
Oh,
I went
my
to China
God.
with a group for Wicklow County Council. There was a big tourism
For the
expo.
Wicklow County Council sent you to
Wicklow
China.
County
Go
Council.
on, the Wicklow County Council, like.
Wicklow, which is paired with Hainan, which is an island off the south coast of China. It's a very small region, you know. There's only 10 million inhabitants. Paired with Wicklow.
10.
Just let that sink in.
God. So
anyway, we had fucking great time there. It was beautiful. It was some big tourism expo. We got to go to Hong Kong on the way as well. So we played a concert in, I think it was a music school in Hong Kong. They played a concert of Chinese classical music, and we played some Irish traditional music, and it was great. It was cool. But again, it was a big international thing, but we got to stay in two really fancy hotels, and the weather was great, and we got to see some nice things. We got to see a Chinese opera. We got a little tour around this movie village where they filmed loads of movies. They have like the villages in 2 halves. One is like a traditional Chinese kind of a looking thing, and it's all fake facades and stuff, but it's interesting stuff. So China, and the other place that maybe was even a bit cooler than that was I did a few gigs with the James Joyce Centre a couple of years ago for Bloomsday.
Yeah.
And one of them was at a festival, a literary festival, which took place on Tolstoy's estate in Yasnaya Polyana in Russia. That was cool. That was, I think that was a highlight. That was fantastic.
I think that can really sum up the fact that traditional music is going to bring you far further appeal than the pub down the road.
Had to learn a load of songs by James Joyce for that one, though, some of which are difficult.
Well, he was a poet, to be honest. Like, he wasn't.
He was he liked to take a load of words and put them in a blender and see what happens.
Don't be saying that they're back to back.
They're fantastic. I really enjoyed them, but one of them particularly, there's this song called "The Ballad of Pierce O'Reilly," which is that was my challenge to learn that for that gig, and it's still a party piece.
Well, what's your plans for well, I know things are kind of shut down now with COVID-19, but you were saying earlier before we came on that you have some album stuff that you're currently working on.
Well, what I was talking about was that I'm on that album with Leisha O'Brien.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. Pluggity plug. It's called The Child's
Leisha
Ballads
and Co,
by
everybody.
Leisha O'Brien. Leisha and Co,
Camp.
fantastic musicians on it. Aoife Doyle from Bray, fantastic singer. Myself, Oisin Morrison, Olton O'Brien, Malachi Robinson, who's a fantastic bass viol player, a viola da gamba, which is an instrument that I wasn't familiar with.
A viola
the album. Viola da gamba.
What is a viola da gamba?
It's a really interesting instrument. It's like an
bass?
early music. Huh?
An alto bass, almost?
No. Viola means, is a viol, so it's not a viola.
Oh.
It's a slightly different family, so they have, they're different. You play them sitting up on your leg.
Oh.
Which is why it's called a viola da gamba. And the bass one, obviously, is big, so it looks a bit like a cello, but it isn't a cello.
Okay.
It's got anything between 5 to 7 strings, and it's got frets.
Whoa.
And I found this instrument really fascinating, but you play it with a bow, and you hold the bow underhand rather than overhand, which is the norm that you see for fiddles and stuff, so you hold it this way around. And
I don't know how that works. And
when I went into the studio and saw this for the first time, I was fascinated, and now I have one, and I go to Malachi's staff for lessons sometimes.
Fantastic. How's your playing going?
Good enough for the living room, you know. Yeah, it's really fun. So that's another thing that came out of making that album. But yeah, that's an album I recommend. And then I haven't got anything else recorded, but I may or may not be scheming. There might be something
Ooh.
in the pipeline, so to speak.
But if people wanted to keep up with like Irish sessions and stuff like that, you be the man maybe to follow for that, because you are constantly posting.
If you follow me on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, that's if there's anything going on that I'm talking about, it's probably a good concert of some sort.
Yeah. And I must say, actually, on all of your social media, especially on Facebook, you speak Irish.
I think I've been. Oh, I speak Irish. Yes.
Yeah.
Mostly.
So you
on
are
my social media.
Yeah.
Particularly on Twitter. My Twitter is almost exclusively through Irish.
That's what I was saying. And on Facebook, you normally have the translation underneath for people who don't speak Irish as well. I'm okay at like understanding a lot of Irish. It's just the fact of speaking it. As you can see, me speaking English a lot of the time can be an issue. So wrapping my tongue around Irish or any other language has proven difficult, but I'm good at understanding it. And
I think most Irish people understand more Irish than they give themselves credit for, maybe.
Yeah.
So
if you actually just sat down and tried to listen to it, you'd realize that you understand a lot more. There we go. We have 2 weeks now, guys. How about our country learns our national language, our mother tongue?
For the crack.
Yes, come on.
Especially if you're into Irish music, because guess where they played them good Irish tunes on the radio.
Or Joe, if we start like a Skype Gael talk, we'd be laughing. But I want to ask you about how you feel the Irish language is being promoted, because as passionate as you are about Irish music, you're really passionate about the Irish language, and there's more things coming out now. Like there's a couple of bars. There's a bar on Harcourt Street that you can, if you go into, you have to speak Irish.
Yeah, that's been there for years. I used to do a regular session there on a Friday night. On a Friday?
You come back any other times?
It might come back. It might not come back. We'll see.
Club
Chunra na Gaeilge,
yeah,
it's a great spot.
And I heard also, drinks are well cheap as well.
Oh yes, they're handy. Yeah, they're not a tourist pub in Temple Bar, like, you know.
Yeah.
But I think if you're into the Irish language and if you're based in Dublin or indeed any part of Ireland now, just go on your social media and look up the pop-up Gaeltacht.
Pop-up Gaeltacht. What is the pop-up Gaeltacht?
I mean, the handle on most of their social media is Búlan na Gael le Chéile I Dictorna chun Ól, like, which is Irish people or people interested in speaking Irish meet up in a bar to drink, like. So basically, a bar gets picked, and it's usually the one in Dublin, the regular one, is usually a Thursday, and you'll walk into a bar and it'll just be packed full of Irish speakers, just having the crack, socializing. There may or may not be music.
And what if someone's a little bit afraid of going in and haven't spoken Irish in ages and wants to go and try it? Or is it an open environment there? Is it
absolutely?
Kind of, it's an open
environment. An open environment, and there's people with all sorts of levels of Irish go. And if you're feeling really nervous, just bring a friend.
Yeah.
Who's also feeling really nervous, or not, not necessarily. But you will definitely meet someone that is at your level, or everyone is kind of willing to talk to you, whatever level you're at.
Yeah.
So it's a really positive environment, and it's just social and kind of it's informal. There's nothing, no one's forcing anyone to speak Irish or anything like that. It just happens. Just an opportunity to hang out and have the crack, really socially and informally and outside. I think for a lot of people, one of the biggest problems is that Irish is something they got within institutions, so in school or in college or in something like that, where there's always someone watching you, making sure you don't speak English. So it's really nice for anyone who hasn't had the experience of meeting up with people and speaking the Irish language outside that sort of a setting. This is one place where you'll get that. You can just give it a go, and it can be a lot more fun.
Yeah, it's nice to see all these like things popping up, especially because, as you said before, that when you go in as an Irish person, you go into school and you learn Irish, but you don't learn Irish like you would another language. They start teaching you the grammar and like the Mocha and all this stuff really soon, and you don't actually just develop being able to talk in your own language. Like in a Gael school, it's different, but from going to an English primary school, it was very much like, this is how you write it, this is how you read it, and none of us could actually speak it at all. None of us could have a normal conversation in Irish. None of us could just sit down and talk about our day.
Yeah,
We
I
could
think
say
that's
that what our parents do, but we couldn't just say like, I need to go to the shop and
yeah,
get
exactly.
so-and-so,
I think,
you
and
know?
I think that's an issue that exists maybe because of the way the curriculum was, particularly I
Definitely.
suppose when people around our age were in school. Definitely, that's what I can speak for, because that was my experience. I don't know. Apparently, it's changed a bit since, but yeah, I mean, you had a verbal exam or an oral exam, and the oral exam is something very formulaic where you learn
Yeah.
off some speeches,
Yeah.
and that's not how you learn a language. I did French in school at the same time, and the French oral consists of you going in and chatting to someone for a set amount of time, and they could talk about anything.
Anything. Yeah, and that's the way you should. That's why you should judge a language.
Which is brilliant. There was none of this shrapictory, which I always thought was, and you didn't have to go out of your way to put feckin' proverbs into your speech, which is, I mean, some of the proverbs that I've come across are fantastic, but when you're trying to artificially, yeah,
That's my
exactly.
favorite
If
one.
there's some stuff that you have to, like, Erwin and Wick, you try to get it into every other
Yeah.
sentence.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, man, crazy. But I've come across some really nice ones, such as Cho Divwin le Ludin on Fibre is one I always like, which means as useless as the piper's little finger.
Well, to be
Ludin
honest,
is your little finger.
I have like a really disjointed finger because I play saxophone and my hands are too small when I started it, so I can't bend it like a like it just flicks whenever I try to like normally bend it. It just pops out.
Okay, that's interesting. I can kind of pop
Yeah,
out
no,
my
because
little finger as well. But
yeah, loads of people can pop it, but I just can't like normally curve it without it's just like jumping.
That's really interesting. And is that one of the fingers you use that you have to
Yeah,
stretch
for
for
my
a
like
key or
lowest
something?
key on the sax, so I have to like stretch it down, and my hands weren't as big as they were now when I started. And I used to play tenor as well, so it's just it
fun
just
times.
doesn't curl nicely. It just pops.
Yeah, I've
this is the first time I'm actually able to show anyone this, because I've talked about my weird pinky a few times. So there you go, lads. That's that there.
Now we know.
Now we know. But what do you think of them
There's
new people who are coming out? Sorry to jump across, but the new people are coming out, like the likes of Kneecap. Have you heard of Kneecap?
No, I haven't.
You should definitely look up Kneecap. Kneecap are a rap group from Northern Ireland. And what I was saying before, with you learned the language and you're so passionate about the language because it's part of your identity. It's part of who you are as a person. And it's the same with Kneecap. They're releasing rap songs like Kiarta. Like half their rap songs are in Irish. It's almost
That's
like they're
fantastic.
bringing Irish to the Northern community as well. And to be honest, they're very political. They're very Republican. They want the whole United Ireland idea of a United Ireland. Like one of their songs is called "Get the Brits Out." But
I mean,
like
that is what it is. But it's great to see that anyone is using the Irish language in their own medium to express themselves.
Yeah, and I think they wanted this to be uniquely Irish rap, and to make it Irish rap, they created it in Irish. They wanted it to be for their people, and they wanted like to show people that this language it's not just for like schools, not just for like casual conversation. And no, like these guys are talking about doing MD and being caught by the guards and like all these things,
normal
all in
teenager
Irish
things.
Yeah, like the normal things that a teenage like like a hard teenager would go through. And but they're
their
showing that you can
life
do this through Irish.
experience.
Yeah, and like
probably. Yeah, and
what do you think of these people who are coming out now who are trying to bring Irish to another means? Are you like, oh, like, yeah, full steam ahead, whatever you're doing with Irish, just keep going?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're using Irish to express yourself and your own views and whatever it is you want to express, then go for it.
Yeah.
It's like, if anything, for the Irish language, it just shows how living a language it is, how viable a means of communication it is, and you can explore all these beautiful things of the Irish language. Like the way you express yourself is different in every language. I speak 4 of them, so I can kind of speak about this a little bit.
Yeah, seriously,
just
all the knowledge.
the way sentences hang together in English and German, for example, is completely different. A lot of the time in German, the active word, the verb, comes at the end.
Yeah.
Which when you're speaking dramatically, and if you read German poetry, this is a big feature. The whole tension of the sentence is carried through, and at the end, you find out what the sentence is about.
That's cool.
And things like this. So every language has its different, is really a completely different means of expression. But there's just loads of these little subtleties, and it's just a really nice thing to explore. Just expressing yourself in a different language doesn't just mean different words and different sounds. It also means a different structure to what you're saying.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice.
What would you like? I'm only going to ask you 2 more questions now because I'll let you go. Keeping you for a while, jeez. But I'll ask you 2 last questions. One, what is it about Irish music and the Irish language that is so resonates so much with you? Like, what is it about that style of music and the language that has pulled you towards it so much that you've really built up your whole career around this identity of being strong and being Irish?
Okay. I mean, I think for the language, it's quite a simple fact. It's my first language. It's what I grew up speaking. It'd be weird if that wasn't what I did. But then I suppose it connects into the music in that I sing a lot, and a lot of what I sing is in Irish, because that's kind of the literary tradition that's there. That's another thing that I think you don't tap into in schools nearly enough, is the whole rich literary tradition that's there. You do a bit.
Not enough.
Not enough, and especially you don't really study the classic poets. I mean, you can go all the way through school and never hear about a guy called Raftery.
Never heard of him.
Or Antoine O'Raftery. He's the Irish Schiller. He's the Irish Shakespeare.
And no one knows his name.
No one who doesn't sing sean-nós, or who isn't into the old literature. And it's poets like that just kind of get overlooked. But yeah, so I think that's kind of one of the things that really ties in the music and the language for me. The other thing is that music generally, the rhythms that you get in music, in different national musics, and this even goes for classical music actually, if you're trying to distinguish the French Baroque style from the Italian Baroque style and the German Baroque style of Western art music, a lot of the rhythm comes from the natural speaking rhythms of texts in that language.
Yeah, actually.
So an awful lot of music is also, it's set to
the way we talk,
poetry and songs.
Yeah.
So in Ireland, one of the most famous types of tune we have is the jig. And right enough, if you go into a lot of Irish poetry, it's da 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 dum da 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 da. I mean,
so it's going as a jig.
You can represent different languages without actually saying any words by just the speech rhythms. So, for example, this is one language.
German.
German.
Yeah.
Bang on. And then
new game, lads. COVID-19 game. Language.
Figure out the language, or yeah. So in Irish we have things, or if you take polkas in Kerry, I find them interesting because everyone says they're like polkas. They're a dance type from Poland. If you listen to some Polish polkas and compare them to some Irish polkas, you'll find that there's quite a bridge to be built there before you can compare the two. However, if you take some Irish songs that happen to sit in that sort of a rhythm, there's a song called hAlmhain an Clyra, which I always play for my students when I'm teaching them how to play polkas. I don't know the words of it. I never learned the song. I just listened to it loads. The best recording that I know of it is a recording of a guy called Laurás Ó Caillit that I recommend. But it goes, it's a hAlmhain an Clyra, and then you play it as a dance tune. And
Like,
the rhythm
it's a
just
conversation.
comes directly from the
Yeah.
And it's I think it's that sort of conversational, lyrical aspects of Irish music that really draws me to it, because a lot of people say, oh, it's very repetitive and that.
It just means
The
more
fact
people
of the
can get
matter
involved.
is, you're never really just playing the notes and rhythms that are on the page. You're never playing 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6. You're kind of playing whatever feeling and thought and expression is going through your head while you're playing this. So which is why every phrase is different every time you play it. And and if you're playing with people, then it becomes a conversation, and there's more than one person mingling into the whole thing. And so that really attracts me, I think. It just feels like a really natural means of expression for me.
I never looked at Irish music that way. Like, I'm quite a fan of Irish music. I really, really like Irish music, especially just because of, big Irish, proud person. But I never looked at it in that way, well, as seeing it, because now that you've pointed it out, I don't think I'll ever be able to not hear a conversation in Irish music again. Because I'm just thinking about all the stuff that I'm currently, because I teach tin whistle as well, and I'm playing through the songs that I've been teaching, and I can hear the conversations. Like, so that's mad. I never thought of it that way.
I mean, loads of it is set to words, and the way we stress words really works. For example, in Irish, if you're actually poetry, it's not poetry. If you're rhyming in Irish, you don't rhyme the end of the word like you do in English.
Yeah,
in English, if something rhymes, then it rhymes because times, the end of the word is the same. In Irish, it's different. You rhyme the middle of the word. You rhyme the longest vowel sound. So, for example, Avonon Vuivach Chimachron de Lee, who is the Krava Sheen de Vivon Doom.
Yeah.
That's where the rhyme
is. It's
a
different rhyming scheme.
Really affects the way we choose to play rhythms. So, for example, if you take a really well-known song, Shen Tru Yer Nach Mission Nach Misha Shen Tru Yer Nach Mission Van Fordin. Shen Tru Yer Nach Mission Nach Misha Savannah Tag Vekalte.
I'll never be able to unhear that now.
Yeah.
Just thinking about, like.
Yeah. And if you enjoy that.
And then, like.
Yeah.
And then it's like it is the response of that other person. I know it's an AABB kind of format, but
exactly, yeah. But also, I was looking at, there's this guy Harry Bradley, fantastic flute player. If you want to check him out, he's very humorous on the old Facebook as well. A post when the panic buying was kind of at its climax, just saying, for all those panic buying, I'd just like to remind you that the full range of my albums is available in Clatter Records. He's a funny guy, but he can get a bit philosophical at times as well. And he wrote a Facebook post one time saying, people ask me sometimes, what am I thinking about when I'm playing music? And he was kind of saying, I think about how that coffee was earlier, why that dog smells so weird over there in the corner, and whatever the fuck, really. I'm saying that what you're occupying your mind with at the time, or what you're feeling at the time, bleeds into your music. And that's where the expression happens.
Okay, I wish I'd asked this earlier, because the whole conversation about conversational music is very, very interesting. But so we're going to be stuck inside probably for the next little while, no work and whatnot. Yes. So one last thing we like to do here on the Making a Music podcast is we like to ask people for their desert island discs. So 5 songs or 5 albums. I don't ask this at the beginning because I don't want, like, sometimes I ask at the beginning, it really depends. Depends when I remember. But 5 songs or albums, could be a mixture between songs and albums, that you, Fionn, have to go off. Well, I'm actually in quarantine with. Never mind. It's not even a desert island. It's just quarantine. So you have 5 albums to last you. COVID-19 is taking over, touch wood, for the rest of our lives, and you are stuck with these 5 albums. Touch wood. I'm literally touching everything right now. Jeez.
Everything here's made of Amos Ennis, The Return from Fingal.
Nice.
Fingal? One of those. Willie Clancy,
Of course.
The Gold Ring. Hans Hotta and Gerald Moore's recording of Schubert's song cycles.
Excellent.
There'd probably have to be a really good recording of Bach's St. John's Passion.
Okay.
It's a fucking amazing piece of music. How many are we at there now? 4?
That's 4. So you got your last.
Oh, there's not enough.
U2 album.
Absolutely not. Caoimhin O'Reilly and Brendan Begley. That album. It's on Spotify as well.
And of course, Leisha and Co. What's the title of your title?
Of course. Well, that's one I would recommend to everyone. Yeah. The Child Ballads.
Child Ballads, which can be found
a guy called
Bandcamp
Child, not ballads for children, because some of them are definitely not child. Which can be found. I think it's on Bandcamp, definitely on their website.
Yeah, I'd listen to Bandcamp anyway.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Fionn, for coming on. You have been brilliant. Thank you so much information. I'm never listening to Irish music the same again.
Mission accomplished.
I would love for you to play us out with something, if you would be willing. If you'd like to play us a wee bit of a tune for the St. Patrick's Day, no worries if not. Otherwise, yeah.
Well, listen, I'll play you a tune on the flute now, and we'll
excellent.
See if we go for the big guns, I'll tune up the pipes and play a tune on that. I have to change chairs because this one has armrests.
No worries at all.
We'll see how well or poorly this comes out now through Zoom.
Sure, we'll figure it out as we go along.
Also, I might send you. I'm going to ask Alicia for permission, and then I might send you some tracks off the album.
Definitely do. Definitely do.
Nice, good quality sound recordings to splice in at your leisure.
Well, while you set up, I'm just going to shout out to the Dublin School Music again, who always help us out with these podcasts. Even though we're separated, they're still helping us out. Thank you so much, Dublin School Music, for sponsoring this podcast. And to you guys who are out there quarantined in your houses, look after each other, look after the elderly and the sick. Don't be afraid to drop groceries into older neighbors and stuff when they can't do it themselves. Just drop it on the doorstep. You don't have to be going in looking for a cup of tea or anything. Wash those hands. Be sensible. Don't be doing play dates and parties and stuff like that. We need to nip this all in the bud. The sooner we all are more clever about it and start washing our hands and keeping to ourselves, the sooner we'll be out of it. So let's just all think smart here. Look after each other. Look after yourself. Thank you guys so much for tuning in again. You finally got to see what this god-awful face looks like. And yes, thank you. Fionn Ó hAlmhain is going to play us out. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I hope you guys are enjoying a very nice, small fun. But thank you so much, Fionn, for coming on. Everyone, make sure you check out Fionn Ó hAlmhain. It's HAlmhain for his name.
AIN.
AIN. Oh, did I say IAN? Sorry, AIN. You can see the little box there as well on the video, and I'll be tagging him on everything in Facebook and Instagram. And there. Oh God, I sprung my mic again. I'm so thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Fionn. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Play us out, darling.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. So this is a version of the dawning of the day that most of you probably won't know, and then I'll play something after. I don't know what, but here goes. Just put this so you can see the pipes a little bit.
Ooh.
What I had to do with my students earlier as well.